Good evening. Today is January 26, 2012. My name is Dr. Randy Short, and I'm with Dignity Reports in association with Education for Peace. And tonight we are interviewing Miss Jannie McNeil-Hayes. She's the president and founder of the Coalition of Adoption Programs that's based in the Washington, D.C. area. It is a phenomenal adoption referral group that has a 100% success rate in training and preparing and helping parents adopt children that need families. We thank you for your viewing, and we know that you're going to be inspired by the story of this phenomenal woman. Jannie Hayes, welcome.
Good evening.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be more or less the Oprah of adoptions in the D.C. Baltimore area? What is it about you? Why do you have this concern for special needs children? So many children are neglected or are in the system, and yet you find yourself reaching out, trying to help. What is it about you? How did you come up? How were you brought up? Why do you have this love for children?
Well, I was raised in North Carolina. I'm the sixth child of 7 by my family, my mother and father, and I've always had a love for children. I've always had a love for children, that's all I can say. And then as I was growing up, I still had a love for children. And my firstborn, the doctor said I would have 6 children, but unfortunately I only had 1. And I think they do that by some count. I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, and again, my love for children still surrounded me greatly. Then I moved to Maryland, and in moving to Maryland, I became a foster parent. And the desire to have children and to love children continued with me, even through school. Finally, when I decided to leave school and to do adoption and foster care for parents, my whole life changed.
Your whole life changed. A lot of people look at foster care and foster children and see that as something that's risky and something where the parents may adopt a child and be rejected, and yet you've been able to simply look past that and get other people to get beyond their fear and adopt children. Why are you able to take a risk? You've adopted several children, and what is it that you say to get other people to take that risk to adopt a child that they don't know? The background could have been difficult.
First of all, when questions are asked me about how do I feel about what I'm doing, and that, I have to go back a little further. I'm a child of God. I believe in God. I believe that every child deserves a home, and that's what God has told me. And when I tell you my life has changed, it's changed because of that. I am successful because I understand what God wants us to do. He wants us to take care of the children, and that is exactly what He told me to do over 20 years ago, and that's what I've been doing ever since. It may sound strange to some people, but to me, when He said, take care of the children, that's what I've done. I look at the children that's in the system. I look at the children that are on the street. I look at parents of children, and I can see what He was telling me to take care of the children. There's a bond, there's a need that every child needs, and that's a mother and a father. I'm successful, I think, because I understand that. I understand the bond between a parent and a child. I understand the bond that nobody else can fulfill in a parent's life, in a mother's life, in a father's life, of a love of a child. And I also understand the bond that the child has with their parent. I think I'm successful because I work on the premise of God, what God has told me, and I talk to people in the way that He tells me to talk to them. I pray with people. When they come with me to explain they can't have a child and they want a baby, they've gone through the system, they haven't gotten one. You know, I sit and I talk to them, and I make them comfortable in what I'm saying so that they can listen And once they listen to what I'm saying, that your life was preordained before you were ever thought of. And God had a plan for you. And that plan was that you would never have a child. But he also planned that there's a whole vineyard of grapes ready to be picked, and there's one for you. Once I kind of explained that to them, parents, mothers, fathers sit back and they relax. Once I tell them what they have to do as far as going through the system, is the whole 9 months of carrying a baby, they relax. So again, my success rate is the fact that they believe in what I'm telling them, they understand what I'm telling them, and they can see the love that I have for God that I'm telling them.
Now, you mentioned God many times in this very brief discussion we've had. What church do you attend in the greater Washington area?
I attend the Sanctuary Kingdom Square at Hampton Mall.
And the pastor?
And that's the Capitol Heights, Maryland. And the pastor is Pastor Anthony G. Macklin.
From what I understand, that church, the Sanctuary, is literally the pastor got a bombed out area and transformed it. And so you're a member of a church that does some really incredible things in the community, job creation, and also rebuilding areas. And I'm of the understanding that your church is supporting you. They've helped you to do this. Is that my understanding? Am I correct?
Yeah, you are very correct. 1998, when I came to the pastor,
Reverend Macklin?
Reverend Macklin, I wasn't a member of the church at the particular time. I was involved with a group called One Church, One Child. That's with Father Clements.
Father Clement is a Catholic priest.
It's a Catholic priest that adopted four boys. I was working with him and going into churches, asking the churches to start a ministry for adoption and to support parents that were interested in adoption. As I said, I didn't belong to that church, but when I went to Pastor Macklin and I asked him if we could put a ministry of adoption in his church, and he said yes, but he had no one to run it. And, he asked me if I would run the ministry. And I said, I don't belong to your church. And, of course, that wasn't a prerequisite. At that particular time, I did not have a church home. So that was a good fit for me to join the church. And in joining the church, I started the ministry. And I also have the special need ministry there.
Tell me a little bit more about special need. What does that mean?
Special need can run from
These are special needs children.
Special need children. When you say special need, it can be mental, the number of children that's in the family that's being adopted, medically fragile. It could be a child with special need, special concerns. But it just, when they say special need, it special runs in a different category. My children that I adopted were medically fragile.
You have two?
I have two.
Could you, Laura and April, if I'm correct?
Laura and April, yes. April is the oldest. Laura is the youngest. They were both fetal alcohol syndrome children, developmentally delayed, and countless other diagnoses that could go along with them. April was born with what they call a congenital heart problem. Laura was born with a severe cleft, which these kids were special need. But, we got them at different times, and they are sisters.
And you've been working with these two sisters as your own for how long? 10, 15 years? How long?
April was 3 when we got her, and Laura was around 8 months old when the judge assigned her to us. They both were in the hospital when we got them. So that's why, it was easy to tell the judge that we'd take both of them.
And they're how old now?
April is 23 and Laura is 21. But surprisingly with that, though, is that a year after getting the children, the attorney came to us and asked us, did we know that they were older children? And we said, no, we didn't know that they were older children. So we got the older two, they were 10 and 12. So we adopted a set of 4, and that did not know about each other.
4 children that didn't know.
4
Do
children.
you know anything about the mother of these children?
No. We went through the system. We just identified one little girl out of a book, which was April. She was in a book. We identified her, and things just happened after that. I don't know the parents.
So you've put into practice, and you preach what you believe, and you get others to adopt children. How many would you say that you could think off the top of your head of children that you've been able to place in homes? A round number, 20 or more, or is it dozens? You're smiling, so...
I like the way you say I place children in the home.
help refer.
I want you to understand that my organization is not an adoption agency. We are not a placement agency. We're a referral center, and we work with families that adopt and foster, a parent that want to adopt and foster. I would say in getting the families to go through the process of adoption and foster, I would say it could be about 20 that we've actually worked with. I have one family that I actually put a baby in the arms, and that was really by accident because you're not supposed to be able to do that. But I was asked to come when they were to pick their baby up, and a lady just came in with this baby, and I love children, so the baby gravitated to me and I gravitated to him, and we were playing when they came out. So, the social worker said, "Here's your baby." Well, I was holding him. I just handed him to her. But as I said, that's an unusual case. Another one, he's 10 now, and he was like 15 months old when I met him. And I helped that family get that. These are cases that are very dear and close to my heart.
So you stay in touch with them. It's not just getting a referral. You remain in relationship with the parents and with the children over as long as they have an interest in being in relationship with you. Am I understanding that correctly?
Being involved with me or a coalition is a lifetime membership. They are with me until they decide they don't want to go. We are their support system. Even after they get the child through adoption or they get the child through foster care, we're still their support system. We're there to help them through anything that they may go through. We are there to help them for any questions, help them find services they need. And as I said, as long as they want us in their lives.
I want to come back to that and reprise this and ask you if you could describe the program and the history of the Coalition of Adoption Programs for the listeners, and say 2 or 3 minutes to give both an overview of how you started, what services you provide, and perhaps if you'd like to give a website or information for people to contact in case someone's moved by this to adopt a child. Could you do that with me?
Yes. As I said, this all started right after I started the ministry in my church. At the time, people were coming to me, and through the support group that we had, and they were telling me of stories that were happening to them in their training. They were calling and telling me things that were happening to them once they got a child placed in their homes. I had families call me. They needed services that they couldn't find because the numbers they had when they were going through the process of foster care through the first 6 months of adoption worked, but once that first 6 months left, it seemed like nobody answered the phone. So after getting various calls and working under the church's 501c3, I couldn't do just so much. So I started my own business in 2003. I started my own coalition of adoption programs. And that way I would be able to get my own 501c3, and I would be able to help families outside of the church under the business. And that's what I've done. It's been 2003, and then it took me 3 years to get my 501c3. But once you file, you can work under your 501c3 until you get your determination papers, and that's to determine whether or not you will be certified as a nonprofit. So today I'm still certified as a nonprofit, and I really enjoy the work that I do with the families, because we're finding there it's just so much that these families have to go through.
Could you tell me some of what they go through?
I don't want to be cruel to anybody, but
So you can tell what their challenges, surely with Laura
Well,
and April, there have been challenges as a parent that's adopted.
with the families that have talked to me, I've run through problems as far as the social worker being very nasty to them, to directors being very nasty to them.
Directors, and these are people who are
Directors
paid
of social
who are paid
services.
to help
Yes.
facilitate the adoption and child care and moving children from the system. Am I understand you correctly?
Right.
Are uncharitable towards the parents.
Right.
I'm not pushing this issue, but is one of the challenges, if the people happen to be same-sex couple, they are not treated fairly. Not that I'm pushing the same-sex adoption of children, but if they take the child into their home, am I understanding correctly that they don't receive decent treatment based on their orientation?
Yes, but let me. I want to say something.
Go ahead.
It's kind of, well, my families are from single families to same-sex marriage families. And believe it or not, they have the same problem. And as a nonprofit, I cannot say who can and who cannot mother or foster a child.
Okay.
If the state licensed them in either capacity, my job is to make sure that the children are placed in healthy families. When I mean healthy families, I mean the families that are going to love these children, raise them up the way that they should be raised up, and see that all of their needs are taken care of. I'm not into you're single and you can't do this, or you're same-sex and you can't do that. I look at the children, and right now we have some of the best same-sex marriage parents out there. And I know a lot of you don't understand that, a lot of you won't understand it. But my job, again, is just to make sure that these children are happy. Some of the single families, we have some of the best single parents. And of married couples, we have some of the best. But you can always destroy the best by having a person in charge.
And this is back to the bureaucrats within the Child and Family Welfare Services. And so they, from what you're telling me, often can be a hindrance.
Can be a very bad hindrance.
I want to ask you a question, because there will be people who have problems with the types of people you mentioned that adopt, but how are children treated? What would bring someone like yourself that's a church-going person, that's trying to be traditional, that's a Christian, to be open to anyone that would love a child, adopting them? What have you witnessed or aware of happens to children in the system that's open you to say, whoever's going to love and take care of a child, you're going to do that versus them being in the system? Are the children treated well when they're institutionalized?
Not always. Our children now face, when they get into a family that could really love them, because of what's happened to them in the institution, it makes it very hard for the family to connect. Sometimes they never connect.
So you're saying, if I'm understanding you, and forgive me for jumping in, that children that come through the state or municipal sponsored institutions sometimes have the children harmed, emotionally or otherwise, where even when they're put in a home, the parents have to struggle to try to reach that child.
Yes.
And so this is one of the reasons why I think I'm understanding. You feel anyone that wants to love and try to reach these children that have been through a very difficult process, this is why you're expressing this openness, in which other people might sort of say, but you're saying because of what the children go through, they need to be loved and in a home with a family. Am I understanding this?
Yes, I would say a warm, blood-flowing, heart-beating person have a lot more to give a child than an institution, whether they are, however they are. I don't condone this, anything that's going on. I'm just doing what I have to do
For the children.
For the children. As I said, if the state license you, my job is to make sure that child is taken care of. My job is to make sure that child get the services they need, whether, black, white, or...
Do you think that more people need to step up to the plate and adopt children? How would you feel if more churches took the stance that Father Clement and Reverend Macklin from the Sanctuary, who's helping you, and also there are other churches that have... How would you feel if there was a greater coalition of faith-based institutions to promote more adoption versus these children being institutionalized? How would you feel about that?
Well, right now we have a number of churches that have adoption ministries in the church. But I think we need to do more. Just having a ministry in the church is okay. Our children are still in the system. We need to do more than just have the ministry in there. I have quite a few churches I'm working with that have ministries. I have quite a few families in churches that have adopted children. But our pastors need to stand up, and our pastors need to go back to the old school of saying that we as a community need to take care of these children. I know that there are families in church that want children, but they don't know how to go about getting them. They think they're too old. As long as you're breathing and in good health and financially able to take care of yourself, I think there's a place that a child could have in your life. You may not be able to adopt or support, adopt a child or foster a child, but you can support a family that have adopted a child. And you can also, there's one other thing that we have to work on, is that we have children that are maxing out of the system.
Aging out. In fact, that was a question.
Aging out of the system.
Can you explain what that means, aging out?
That means that child is turning 18 years old and they are an adult and the system no longer going to care for them.
And they never had a family.
And they never had a family.
What happens to these young people?
Okay. We advocate forever families. That's through the system. But the gangs also advocate forever families. Well, when we say we have a forever family, we come in with all kind of rules and regulations and stipulations. When the gang say we have a forever family for you, the child gravitate to that because they're not going under any rules, they're not going under any type strict regulations. So the gangs are getting them. And for you that say that you don't want to help or you can't help, I hate to say this, but the next time somebody break in your house, it could have been a child that you could have helped.
So that means that the children that become adults at age out are overrepresented in our prisons, jails, criminal subculture, and there was no safety net, and they fell between the cracks. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
And I understand that the coalition reaches out to them. Can you tell us a few of the programs of the coalition, things that you do each year? I understand that you have an impressive array of programs and activities that go throughout the year. Could you share some of them? That would be helpful.
Okay, starting in May, we have a conference for foster families, and that's also a luncheon. And we invite foster families to come out and share in the workshops. There are a lot of information that foster families should know, and we make it available for them to come to the workshops. We also honor family that come out. We have a foster family of the year where we may recognize up to 10 families that we feel that have done some outstanding work, whether they adopted one child, a special need child, or adopted a family of 10. We give them an honor. They get trophies, they get letters of certificates, and they also get a luncheon. And then in July, we have a health fair where, everybody needs to take care of their health. So this is one way that we, reach back out to the community, and we ask them to come out to the health fair and bring your child, bring your insurance. If you don't have insurance, there are ways that you can get coverage. Then in November, which is a National Adoption Month, we have a black tie event. That's an event that's called Academy Award of Adoption. And as they say, the best of the best get an award. Well, in our eyes, when we honor these families, they are the best of the best because they've come forth, they've taken in the child, they've given their child their name, they're raising it as if it was theirs. That 9 months that they went through is the birth of their child. So that's in November.
All right. If someone wanted to look at, you have a website, is it possible to share that?
www.coalitionadoptionprograms.org.
And it would give someone an overview of your programs?
Yes, you go in there, you can look at what we are doing. You'll see events that we've had, you'll see events that are coming up, events that we've had, and also some of the programs that we are initiating now.
How are you funded?
Oh, that's a big one.
How you living?
We are funded through donations, personal donations, contributions. We get small grants, and so far, hope and prayer.
So, on your same website, there would be a way if someone wanted to help or contribute, or what kinds of things would you like to receive? Of course, cash, but in-kind services. If someone saw this and wanted to be helpful, where could they deliver, or would the website have sufficient information for how people could give something or volunteer or be involved or adopt a child or be a foster adoptive parent?
If they go on the website, they can find just about whatever they want to find. If they want to donate, they can go on. There's a PayPal button on there that they can always donate through PayPal. Or they can send it to Post Office Box 4264, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. That's Coalition of Adoption Programs. And any other way. You can also call me. It's 301-529-8465. And you can also email me at janhayes1@verizon.net.
I want to ask you, my understanding is you want to have the coalition provide training classes. Is there a course that you're looking to try to do in the future? I think there was something in relationship to grant writing that you're willing to teach, or you had someone that was coming in to teach for other persons that are working with things in the community. That's one thing I've noticed, that the coalition tries to help other groups that are helping young people. So you're working with people in Baltimore and in Virginia and D.C. But there's a grant program. Is that something that you might want to just mention, even if it's too late for someone to register, but in the future, is that something that you'd like to share?
We have a grant writing course that's coming up February the 4th through March 24th. And that's for anyone that wants to know how to write a grant. I know that there are millions of dollars out there, and the problem is, how do you get the millions of dollars? Everybody say, oh, write a grant. But if you're not familiar with how to write a grant or proposal, the $1 million is zero in your hands. So my organization decided that we would give a class to anyone that would like to know how to write a grant or proposal, and that way you can at least learn how to write a small grant. Most grant writers, that's their job, and they're going to charge you like it's their job. So if you don't have the money to pay a big grant writer to write a grant for you, then you can't get any money. But this way you will be able to at least write a little bit of grant, a small grant, and maybe get the money then to pay a grant writer to write for the bigger grants.
Are the details of this class on the website?
The details are on the website, and the last registration is the 31st of January. But if you would like to take the course, you can still give me a call, and I think some other changes will be made after that. This is our pilot class, and after the pilot class, we will have a continuous series of classes after that.
I wanted to ask you, looking back on a distinguished career, some of the highlights. You've received many awards for your work. Do you care to share maybe your top 4 or 5 awards that you feel most proud of?
Yes, my organization in 2009 received the MBE award, and that's the Minority Business Award for Black entrepreneurs in the state of Maryland. In fact, it's a Mid-Atlantic region. I've gotten citations from the governor. I've gotten from the Governor Ehrlich as well as Governor O'Malley. I've gotten a citation from Mayor Anthony Williams when he was the mayor of D.C. I've gotten quite a few awards from the senators. Senator Barbara McCluskey is one. Senator Ben Cardin is another. Quite a few. Also got some from the county exec.
Mrs. Hayes, I wanted to ask you, as an adoptive parent of 4 children, for you to just give me some examples of the rewards you've seen by investing in a young life, the transformation that you've been able to witness with any of the 4 children that you've adopted.
Well, the first 2 children that we adopted, that were in the hospital, the oldest one was 3 years old at the time, and she was introverted. Her eyes were sunk back in her head. Her stomach was extended very large. Her facial features were very pronounced through her skin because she was so little. She was 3 years old and weighed 18 pounds. She looked like a little girl from the third world. The youngest one, which was 8 months old, she was born with a severe cleft. She had a big hole in her face, if you don't know what that is. She had the very tip part of her nose and a bottom lip, and the rest of it was all gone. She had no roof in her mouth. She didn't even have a palate, or part of her throat was even gone. Well,
Could she talk?
She could not talk. She couldn't do absolutely nothing. She just laid there, and they were giving her this milk through an intravenous feeding, and she was almost 36 pounds at 8 months old, so she was huge. When we got them, April, within a month's time of visiting her, playing with her, being there with her every day, she just blossomed. Her eyes suddenly started sparkling. She had this beautiful smile on her face. She wasn't talking either at that time, but when she recognized you, she would give you this beautiful smile, and she started developing. She went from, I would say, a third world child within a month to the most pretty, beautiful baby that you ever want to see within a month's time.
And within that month's time, what kind of things did the doctors say to you about these children? I mean, did you get a report that these children were going to be just fine, or what did they say when you decided to adopt these special needs children? Did you get a great report that you'd be able to see progress, or what did you hear from the doctors?
Well, their lifespan wasn't to be very long, based on the way they were.
According to the doctors?
According to the medical staff that was there.
So the experts basically said these children were not to be in the world long?
No, do not expect a life expectancy of a long time from them.
So were they encouraging of you to adopt these children, or are they saying you can do it if you want, or, well, what, did they encourage you adopting them, or did they sort of say it's left to you? Were they sort of riding the fence on adopting these children?
Well, with the medical staff, they can't really do that. But through the Department of Social Services, it was really pushed that we wanted to adopt a child. We wanted to help this particular little girl that we saw. And they worked with us very, closely to make sure that we got her, and the things that we needed, we got. Same with the other child. There were some not very good reports on her, very, very bad.
For example?
I'd rather not say,
okay.
But they were not good at all. But today, let's say, to be thought of that she would be institutionalized for the rest of her life because she would never be able to do anything, and to look at her today, somebody was wrong. So that's that's the best I can answer that. But today she's 21 years old. She's walking. She's doing everything but talking. And the reason why she can't talk is because they had to build her a face and a throat.
How do you feel about that, making that kind of difference?
The fact that I've seen children like my children and other children blossom by the love that they're getting from parents coming out of the system, I think is great. I mean, I can look back and see things that I wish I could change or that could have changed. But when I look at the outcomes today, I don't think I would change a thing, because they are what they are, and they're what God intended for them to be. And just don't look at something and decide you don't want to do it. You have to really invest in it. And today, 20 years of investing in these little girls and the other two, I feel it was worth it.
I want to ask you, I've had a chance to meet some of the adoptive parents that the coalition has worked with, and everyone has seemed to be beyond pleased, very happy about the choice that they made. Am I understanding, or am I not getting something? Is it true that you've seen happiness, joy, fulfillment for parents who open their homes to these children?
I've been working with families for over 20 years, and I have met, I would say, maybe one or two that were not pleased. Right now, it's like they found a pot of gold. They love the children. It's like what they want, and they can't wait to see what they're going to produce. The families are very happy, and the children are very happy. As I say, I can say there are maybe two families that I've actually talked to and worked with that were not pleased.
If I had to ask you to name some important people that were adopted that have been very successful, could you give me a few names?
Probably.
Well, I mean, we can start with Obama. President Obama was adopted. I mean, but he wasn't an orphan, but he was adopted. So he's one person that's adopted, but he had his mother, but adopted. But do any...
President Bill Clinton was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, I can't even think of another. I'm doing an moment.
Yeah, But
there are quite a few famous people that were adopted. Right there, I cannot give you right off the top of my head.
But you gave one, President Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton was adopted.
Two-term president was adopted.
Right.
And I think the former mayor of Washington, D.C., Tony Williams, was adopted.
Right.
And so there... We can't speak so much for their politics, but we've seen some people who've come from adoptive situations go to the heights within their particular area of work.
I know that there are quite a few movie stars that were adopted, but right tonight, off the top of my head, I could not tell you any of them. There are quite a few politicians that were adopted. There are quite a few actresses that were adopted. There are teachers. There's a vice president of a bank in Baltimore that I know that was adopted. So the number is way out there.
So adopting children, children that are adopted, if I rephrase that, can be major successes in society and people that can make contributions.
Yes.
All right.
We have quite a few people that I can name with you. One of our president's security staff that was a guest speaker for me one year, he was adopted. People that have adopted children. I mean, there's just so many out there. There are quite a few, okay?
All right.
If you give me a call, I can give you the names.
Okay. All right. Having discussed that, what are your dreams? If tomorrow you were to win $100, $200 million or $10 million or whatever, and you were able to do something to fulfill what you believe is a call from God to help give children families, what would you do?
Oh, well, that's an easy one because God has already told me what to do. I was driving one day and my car stopped. You heard the old phrase, stopped on a dime. Well, my car almost stopped on a dime because at that moment God said, this is the building. And I looked to my right and there was a gorgeous building that God has shown me that that's where his house would be for the children that we are helping. I would open up a post-permanency center. That's a building that is like a one-stop shop that families could come to, bring their children to get the help and services that they need. Everything that would be running from that building would be a state-of-the-art facility. God has also shown me how to work with the children. He said that you have to work with the passion of the child. Nowadays, we tell them what they want to do. You know, we tell them everything. We tell them where to go, where not to go, what to do, what to say, how to say it. But God said we have to work on the passion of the child. And if you can work on the passion of the child, you can get the child. You can control any child if you know their passion. And today, with our children being out the way they are, some of the children are misunderstood when they go into families, but that's understandable also. I would just have the best building, the best place that families that want to adopt, fostered, want to foster, guardianship, kinship care, including biological families could come and they know that they can get the help that they need for their children and also for them.
You would want to create literally a virtual village for people that love children. That's what your vision would be. A huge complex with art and music and places for people to come, and also the children who are aging out of the system would have some place to belong and to be trained. And I understand you would literally from the cradle to the near grave, you'd have something for people who wanted to either be involved with nurturing children who didn't have biological parents, and those who have biological parents that want to support those that are adopted. That's, if I'm understanding, this is what your dream is.
That is my dream.
It's a beautiful dream. As we come to the close of our presentation and our report, if you could appeal or say something to impress upon persons who may want or are curious about adopting children, and you could say it in 2 to 3 minutes, what would you tell them?
Imagine a world with no children. Imagine a world where we have children that's misunderstood. Imagine a world where if we could help and we didn't help, what we would have. Today I would like to have everybody that's able, that love children, that think that they love children, to think about the children. If we don't care for them today, we won't have children tomorrow. we won't have it tomorrow. So I appeal to everybody that want to adopt a child to go to your local DSS and inquire how you can help. You may not be able to adopt a child the way you want to adopt, but you may be able to help another family that have adopted. You also may be able to help a child just know what a family is. And, that's just bringing a child into your home just for the weekend so that they can understand what it is to have a family. I can't imagine a world with no children. I can't imagine a world with no parents without children. This is our world, and this is the world that God gave us. God gave us these children to take. God gave us these children to love. So if I could appeal to anybody that think that they would like to have a child, you can also call Adopt Us Kids. You can go online and find the number, and they will be able to help you find a location in your area, in your state, and go and ask, how can we help the children?
Before I let you get away from us, Ms. Hayes, I think that we want to have you repeat how they can contact you, what your website is, your address, and your number.
Okay. I will do that. Also, forgot to tell you, when we were talking about the grant, there is a charge for that grant. So if you go on the website, you can find the price. The website is www.coalitionadoptionprograms.org. The post office number is Post Office Box 4264, Upper Marlboro, Maryland 20785. The email is janhayes1@verizon.net. The phone number is 301-529-8465.
Mrs. Jannie Hayes, President and Founder of the Coalition of Adoption Programs, on behalf of the Dignity Reports and Education for Peace, we thank you very much for your time. Brothers and sisters, friends of humanity, lovers of justice, I myself, Dr. Debbie Randy Short, with the famed producer, Miss Jocelyn Lawrence, we thank you for your viewing. And before we sign off, we want to acknowledge our wonderful leader, the First Lady of Struggle, Miss Cynthia Ann McKinney, who's head of Dignity. Do something to help your community, your world, to bring about justice, peace, and love. God bless you, and good night.